What are the top 2 ways that you feel love and appreciation?
So my love language is acts of service.
Uh-huh.
So the number one way that I feel appreciated is when you offer or like help me make my day a little bit easier by like taking something off my plate, especially if I don't have to ask for it, right? Or like when you start to prioritize me. Hello and welcome to the Weaponized Marriage Podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Hewitt.
And I'm Ryan Hewitt.
And today is episode 33.
Is it?
Larry Bird.
Were you waiting to say
the
that?
Larry Bird episode. No, it just randomly came to me. So, but we're going to dive into a topic today that was a start of a conversation. And I was like, this should be our conversation on the podcast. So it's real and raw. So I was listening to another marriage podcast that I really like, friends of ours, and they were having a very similar real raw conversation, and it just stimulated this idea for me. And they were talking about they've been married 20 plus years, and they have 5 kids, multiple businesses, and while we can't relate to the 5 kids, we have 1 and multiple businesses. And one of the things they were talking about is just like constantly like about how like you're getting a new evolution of your marriage. You're writing in the next chapter of your marriage. Like it's always evolving, just like you are as a person. And the husband was really being very specific about wanting to get like text messages from his wife that were like words of appreciation. And what was the most ironic part of this is that he was sharing about like his wife was actually sharing like her appreciation even on the podcast, but it was like he couldn't take it in. He needed to have it in writing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was so funny to me because he didn't obviously see it that way. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting is that it kind of brought up the idea of love languages and about how like your love language is usually, in most cases, it might be different from your spouse. And like you tend to love your significant other in your love language, which isn't necessarily theirs. But 2 things that came up. One is that they were in agreement, which we've talked about a lot, is that like everyone, both men and women, number one, they want to be seen and they want to be heard. And how this episode kicked off was they talked about how she was getting attention into the gym and why is it land differently when it's attention from someone else. So like, for example, you could tell me every day that I look beautiful, I'm sexy, whatever. And like,
I tried to tell you that.
Yeah. And
often.
And you do that often. I'm not saying you don't. But
I'm saying, does it land with you?
I was going to say, I think that I always take it in, but like she was saying, she was noticing that like if someone that like comes up, and she's kind of like me too, like she goes into the gym and she's on gym mode. So she's not really like talking to anybody. But she said that she just noticed that someone once like that week had said something to her and about how it landed a little bit differently because it was given by someone else.
Okay.
Not someone that you see every day.
So that's happened to you at Lifetime before where there's been guys that have come up to you and that have said, wow, you look whatever, you look strong, or you're lifting heavy, or, that's a compliment to you, maybe not to all women, but they're telling you that you look good.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is so interesting because when I think about like when you're in the gym, I'm like, it makes me a little bit nervous because like you're like, oh shit, your squat looks like ass, or like,
I think I'm judging you.
Yeah. Like,
no, I'm not.
Or you should do this differently, or like, oh my God, your hips are so immobile.
Why do you think I'm that critical?
So, but that's what I was laughing about because at the intro of this podcast, I was like thinking about how like that lands for me too. Is like Ryan does give me a lot of nice compliments, but at the same time is like, if someone at the gym gives me a nice compliment, it lands differently.
Okay, why?
And like I don't really know the reason why. I think it's because it's like someone that's not in your everyday. It is so hard this is a good intro. It is so hard to recognize when you are with that person every day.
Mhm.
For example, I'll give you an example. When you go and let's say you go away on vacation and you leave your kids at home. And you come, have you ever, like when I come home and I see Lily after a couple days being gone from her, I'm like, holy shit, she looks so much older.
Mhm.
Or like she'll come and her smile like is just so bright, and I'll be like, oh my God, that kid's got such a cute smile.
Mhm.
But like when I'm with her every day,
Yeah.
there's moments where I recognize that, but I don't like stop and like really like I don't say anything. I don't like take it in the same thing.
Let's say absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yes, I was going to say kind of along those lines. So I think that's the same thing happens with your spouse is that like when you're like,
well, that's
hey,
a completely different concept because you're saying that your spouse who says it to you, not infrequently, but often enough where it doesn't, it just falls on deaf ears after a while, but then somebody else comes in the picture and tells you that you look great.
Yes, and in a little bit like, different way, right?
Ooh, I like that.
Well, no, I'm not saying that I'm.
Why not? It's
like
okay.
You
it's
like
okay.
it.
It's okay to like it.
I'm saying that it just
doesn't it feel nice? Doesn't it
that
feel nice if somebody gives you
if someone notices, right? But what I'm saying is that it's hard for you to notice shifts every day when you're with that person constantly, even in the messy middle, right? When it's like, hey, I'm on a cut, hey, I'm on a bulk, and so you notice like, you don't notice little things that when you're with someone every day that because you're not seeing these changes over a course of time because it's harder to notice those changes.
Are you saying that it's hard for you to notice when you're with somebody all the time? Or are you telling people you're just generalizing?
I'm generalizing. I think that this is like a generalized concept.
What about for you?
That's what I mean.
Okay.
I'm part of that generalization is that like I also think that it's like hard for you to notice. I'm saying like it's hard for me to notice big changes or like little changes more than big changes because like I don't necessarily say something like even the other day I said like you showed me a picture of you and I was like, oh wow, look how
ugly you were.
No, I didn't say that.
I say that all the time.
Okay, I'm going to use a perfect example. Your hair.
Yeah.
I have told you this happened last week.
What?
So Ryan's talked about this before, but he went to Colombia and he had a hair transplant in February.
Yeah.
Right. And like it has noticeably like it's like worked.
Yeah.
Right. Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And I have said several things, including this is the cutest part.
To me?
Yes. I said like, oh my God, yeah, it really like you can tell it's making a difference or like it looks good or like even when you like without you prompting it, right? I said like, oh wow, babe, your hair is really growing in there.
I just got my haircut today. You didn't say anything.
And oh my God.
Just kidding. I'm kidding.
So, but the reason I'm saying this part is because even Lily, this is the funny part I was going to share. When we say prayers at night lately, she's been saying prayer and she's like, it's so cute. She's like, I pray that daddy's hair grows back.
Oh my God. Did you tell her to pray for that?
And she keeps saying, and it's hilarious. She prays for you. We've been talking about like praying for people.
Yeah. What does she pray for you?
I can't remember what she prayed for.
I know what she prays for you.
What does she pray for?
She prays that you give more hugs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
she prays that you're more affectionate.
Oh, no. She doesn't say hugs to me. She says more cuddle time. That's what she says.
Same shit.
She says more cuddle time to me. And then like the cutest thing is that she prays for our dog Huckleberry and she's like that he doesn't have pain in his joints. And I'm like, oh my God. So she obviously got the gist of like praying for someone for something that they need. All right.
I guess I need support.
So yours is hair. So anyways, but I was thinking about this the other day because I like thinking about this in relation to the podcast I listen to about how like you don't tend to compliment or appreciate someone making small changes especially when you have close proximity to them during the process. Mm-hmm. Right. So, I've just been paying attention to being a little bit more aware of this. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that, back to the hair, was I thought about how I've said that several times in the last month about your hair. And
Said what?
like that, like, wow, it looks really good. Or like, even like when we took a picture at Alessio's wedding and I was like, look at your hair, babe, like, and you're like, yeah, like, but then last week, I think it was yesterday actually, when you came home, you're like, yeah, patients have been like saying some stuff about my hair. And I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what they were talking about in their podcast, where it's like, the person you are in a relationship with can tell you you're beautiful, you're strong, your hair's growing back.
But here's the thing.
But it doesn't land the same.
I understand. Okay. So I guess it all depends on how important it is for you to get like verbal affirmation from your partner.
Yes and no.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, I think it's probably important for everybody to have some sort of like positive, like, I guess, affirmation from your significant other, right? Like if you just completely stop saying anything nice to me, I think that would be a problem.
Yeah.
And the vice versa. But
or if I just said critical things.
Well, just, I mean, if you want to go on the lines of love language, like for some people, words of affirmation are big as far as what they need to hear from their significant other in order to help them feel like loved and secure and whatnot. I think let me ask you this. So like for you to feel love and appreciation, like what are the top 2 ways for you to feel that?
Before we go there,
no,
because I want to segue. I just want to like create a little segue here, because
I am creating a segue.
This is where I was going to go with this, is because it made me think of too is that like words of affirmation is not that important to me.
Okay, so answer my question, right? So what are the top 2 ways that you feel love and appreciation?
So my love language is acts of service. So the number one way that I feel appreciated is when you offer or like help me make my day a little bit easier by like taking something off my plate, especially if I don't have to ask for it, right? Or like when you start to prioritize me. Like we had a great weekend this weekend, and it was because like you actually like made a plan and then we communicated that plan, and it wasn't just the plan of you and me in terms of date night. It was more like, hey, here's what we're going to do with Lily this weekend. Here's when I need you to take her. Here's when I can be on duty. Like, and here's where we can switch off. And so like, then yesterday you sent me like a really nice message where you put in writing that you also enjoyed our weekend. And I came back to you and said, I think that it was because we communicated and we planned well. And I felt appreciated because you prioritized our time off together. So the number one way that I feel appreciated is not by getting a text message that says, I'm so grateful for you. I like that, but that's not the number one way that I feel appreciated.
What's the number 2 way?
I mean, I would say probably the number 2 way is like the actual verbal word, right? Of like, hey, thank you. Like when you recognize that I did something, especially if you recognize something that I just do by default that you would otherwise have to do if I didn't do it.
Right. Now, here comes the paradox. What are, like in our first 10 years of marriage, what was the number one way that you tried to show me love and appreciation?
Acts of service, because that's my love language.
Now ask me what mine are.
I know what yours is.
Well, I mean, that's not the point of the podcast.
Physical touch.
Yes. My number one way is from physical touch and physical affection. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so in other words, you were saying earlier that most people's default, because they feel love and appreciation based on their primary love language, they try to offer that because they're like, oh, this is what's the best ever to get this. And then they try to give that to their spouse, and the spouse might be like, yeah, thanks so much, but where's the other thing?
Yeah. And then how does the other person feel?
Yeah, rejected. Yeah. Completely. Well, the person who delivers the service feels rejected because it wasn't received the way they were hoping. And the person that receives the gift or whatnot feels probably confused, and like they feel, I guess, not loved and appreciated because they're not getting what they need.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which is how we operated the first 10 years of our marriage.
Yeah,
and that's why
we'll figure why it didn't work.
That's why I wanted to talk about this today, because if we tried to have this conversation at 5 years ago, just 5 years ago, so we've been married 15 years, like this would have never happened. Yeah, where we would have
probably not
talked through this. And this is why I thought this would be a good episode to actually watch us like talk through our own shit, because that makes it real.
Yeah. Which is what I'm saying. It's better if you talk personal situations rather than try to teach people about why this is important.
I'm not trying to teach people anything.
I know, I'm just saying.
A couple of things that came up when I thought about this topic, when, like I said, it was stimulated by listening to this other podcast, was about how Garrett was sharing that like a lot of the men he works with, that when it comes to their relationships, is that they're being starved in like either physically and or emotionally. And Danielle's point was, which I thought was awesome, was about how it's like there's a lot of consistency with, like, let's say a guy starts changing his ways, and for 6 months, he's like sent love messages to his wife, like, I love you, I appreciate you, blah, blah, blah. But like he hasn't, even though he's been consistent, he's maybe not taken into consideration about how she receives that. And maybe, and to Danielle's point, it's been 6 years since he's done this, right?
Mhm.
So there's a period of time where the unraveling has to happen, which for us has been really the last 5 years of us unraveling what the first 10 years looked like.
Yeah, but on the other hand, also from the guy's perspective, if you starve your guy of sex and affection, like
they go someplace else,
he's going to be starving, right?
Yeah.
And he's either going to sedate, right? Completely like shut down that need by just completely distracting themselves, usually immersing themselves in work. Or for me, it was like completely immersing myself into fitness.
Yeah.
Or you go find it with another woman who gives you attention, right?
Sedate, escape, or both.
Yeah, or both.
In both men and women can run that pattern. Like there's ways.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it goes both ways, right? So this would have never happened if both of us didn't take our own responsibility in what has happened and what was happening.
Yeah.
Because if it's just always like blaming the other person, then it never changes, because inevitably, like, there is two people in a marriage and there's a reason things end up the way they are. And it's rarely just a one-sided event. Sometimes it is, right? Sometimes it's not always both parties, but in the vast majority of cases, I've seen this with so many different case studies, right? With different guys through whether it was Warrior, whether it was the guys I work with, that it doesn't change until both people are completely humbled and willing to like look and see like, hey, how am I operating, in my day-to-day, where am I actually prioritizing my spouse or my family, or how am I spending my time?
Where am I investing in them?
Right.
Like, and also too, like, I think too, is that like, this has happened recently. I have like one or two close people that I know that are going through a breakup. And I thought about this the other day, and I was like, when I was having this conversation with, this is actually one of my coaching clients. And when we were talking, we were talking about like, you have to be at cause, but you have to know like that you're not, stop playing the victim card, because the victim card keeps you stuck.
Right.
And I think that one of the things that really like stood out for me for this conversation is that it is so easy to stay in blame or shift the blame to like, it's my fault. And both are victim like positions, right? So one of the things that I was sharing with her was that for her to actually look at the ending of this relationship as clearing space. Because I was like, think about it like when you go and you're going to go build a house, and usually the first thing is like, you have to clear and prep the lot. And I was saying about how like she's so feeling so stuck in this old relationship. And then she's starting to blame herself, when I was like, it takes two. And that she started to realize that the person that she is like breaking up with, they have to want to do their work just as bad as she wants to do her work. Like, she sees the things that she did wrong in the relationship that she wants to change, because she knows she will only repeat it in her next one. Right. But there are many people that on the flip side, when they do end it, like when breaking up is the best solution for actual both parties, is when one person is willing to do the work, but the other person just is not.
Yeah, it's well said.
And we
So let me ask you this:
yeah.
Why did you decide that you wanted to do the work instead of find somebody else?
Good question. I think this has evolved for me, but I think that at the beginning, it took me, I just knew that, like, hey, I was very worried about, like, if I move on, I'm just going to repeat the pattern of the things that I don't do well in a relationship.
Which was what?
I really struggled with communication. I really struggled in the physical intimacy part at that point, especially when I felt very disconnected. Um, but the biggest thing is that, like, I think that one of the things that really took me the longest to work through and still is a continual work in progress is when I failed to listen to my intuition, which not only broke trust with myself, number one, but also it, like, we had, because of your actions, we had such a trust gap.
Mhm.
And I was like, listen, I was like, I am going to go on to another relationship, which I wasn't worried about that, but the same problems were gonna follow me. And I remember,
Did you see a pattern in your old relationships that were similar to ours?
yeah, when it would get, like, a little bit too intimate, like, not physically, but, like, emotionally,
Mhm.
I would kinda, like, pull away. That's that fearful avoidant that we would, like, I didn't like that close intimacy of that vulnerability. I was much more guarded, with my heart, and I think that one of the things that, like, I was like, if I don't learn, there was something inside me that says, if I can't learn to trust myself, I can't trust other people.
Mm.
And I think that that was a big shift for me that started to show me that I had a very deep level of work that needed to be started, and I had no idea what to do. So instead of running away from it, which was the easy solution, I was going to kind of stick it out and see what presented itself for me to work through.
Yeah, I imagine there's a lot of people that get stuck in that. Um, yeah, I think that I think that the way that manifests, and that obviously didn't bode well for. I think so. The way I always described it to you was the way that you're able to express your deepest level of trust and intimacy is with like sex, right? So, and then that's the way I always felt that you were just like not fully connected when it would come down to that. And then
Mhm,
that's what just like was so confusing to me that I didn't really know what was at the
mhm.
root of that.
Yeah, and I also think that, like, part of it was that obviously I had some sexual trauma there that I
Mhm.
wasn't really able even to, like, in my mind, we talk about sedation, or, like, the other side of sedation, I think, like I said, is, like, numbing, and there's, like, numbing and sedation kinda go hand
It's
in
like the
hand.
same thing.
Yeah, and I think that one of the ways that I numbed, just like the sexual assault stuff was, I just pretended it didn't happen. Like, it
Mhm.
was a blacked out period
Mhm.
of my life, and I've come to find out as I've learned a lot more about trauma that that's a very common,
Mhm.
response,
Mhm.
and it can be undone, it can be worked on, it will always be there, but, like, you figure out how to rework and reframe it,
Mhm.
and one of the things that was, like, I realized that I had a couple, like, I kinda think about this is gonna be funny. You're gonna, because I probably am gonna butcher this, but, like, you know about how, like, that kinda concept of, like, notches on a bedpost, right? Like,
Uh-huh.
I kinda think about when I look at, in, like, real psychological eval terms, it's called, like, have you ever heard of an ACE score?
Yep.
And I
Isn't it
think
like a trauma score?
yeah,
Mhm.
it's called, like, advanced childhood experience or something like that, or
Yeah, do you remember
adverse childhood experience
Yeah.
Like,
One of our first therapists did that in real time with both of us, and you were like 0, and I was like,
yes.
like all of them.
Oh, and here's what's crazy is that if I look at that, like knowing that, like I didn't even think about that, but like if I had a 0, like it wasn't that I lied. It was just that in my mind, all of those things were things that I had either pretended didn't happen or blacked out of, because obviously that was my trauma, like that was my default trauma, like response. So, anyways, back to A-score. So, like, this is a common tool that therapists will do. And then, like, I remember listening to a podcast again where someone was talking about this. It was the first time I'd heard it explained this way. And she started listing some of the questions. And I was like, oh, I have that. Oh, I have that. And I was like, and all of a sudden a light bulb went off that for me, that I was finally telling the fucking truth to myself.
Wow.
And from there, I just said, like, you can stay with Ryan, who you do deeply love, or you can run and you can repeat. Meaning, like, or you can stay here and do the work. And there was just something inside me that said, it's time for you to do the work. Even though I don't know at the time, I had no fucking clue what that meant. So anyways, that was a long answer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know where to go from there.
So back to appreciation. So one of the things though that I think about when we were at the rock bottom is and again back to like this conversation about like how do I feel appreciated, is that I think it's pretty common for women and men want to be seen, heard. And then I think the next two words that followed are respect and appreciated. Men more so I tend to go the respect route, and women more the appreciated route. And I want you to define how you feel respected. Because last episode, when we talked about attachment styles, we talked about appreciation and respected at the end. And I was like, it bothered me that we left our listeners just kind of like, I think most women, and I'm speaking for myself right here, when you say like, I want to be respected, I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
And then when I say I want to be appreciated, I feel like most men are asking, what the fuck does that mean?
Well, for me, it all starts with how you speak to me, right? Because, and everybody's going to probably like understand what I mean by like either nagging or bitching or like complaining. Like, I don't think like, I know you don't necessarily think you're doing it sometimes, but then it'll come off like that. And it will just be like, I don't respect anything you do other than all these problems that you're currently, I guess, not doing properly. Like it's sort of like a never enough feeling, I guess. I think that, so it has to do with like tone and delivery for sure. Like tone and delivery of the way you speak to me is huge for me. And whether that's because like of how I grew up listening to tone and delivery of like husband and wife and how it was not good, or I just like, I don't know, for me, that's big. And then I think when you undermine me, okay, for example, like when we tried to work together in the business and you would undermine a decision I would make, or like in front of my team, tell me about how what I just said was not good in some way. Like that would make me feel disempowered, disrespected. Or when we do it with like parenting, like if I tell Lily one thing and then you decide to like completely go the other direction with it, and Lily interprets that as like, oh, well, what daddy says doesn't matter, or daddy's not in charge, mom is in charge. You know what I mean? Not that I have to be like, oh, I'm the one who's in charge. It's more like just being a united front and just having like respectful, I guess, conversation, and it obviously it's not always going to be that way, right? When there's collision, I think we've figured out now how to, for the most part, interact respectively when we have collision or disagreement. And that took a lot, I think, for us to get there. Because for you, like you would say that I'm yelling, right? Like, I don't think I'm yelling.
Mhm.
I just get like heated. And I think for you, where you're being like critical or condescending, and you're like, no, I'm not. I'm just telling you the truth. It's like, okay, we both have stories about how we're delivering this message, right? So I think for me, a lot of it is just that like verbal interaction.
The tone.
Yeah,
The tone matters.
it's not anything like you don't do anything to make me not feel respected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's nothing you do. It's more about like your energy and what you say. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah, because like I think about a couple like instances like when I was in the practice.
oh, can I just say
What?
like last week when we talked about um our interaction with the father of the bride, and he was saying like one of the things that he defines a healthy marriage is that you admire each other.
Mhm.
And I just think back of how like I spoke to you in the past and how I acted in our marriage and even when we were dating and everything. Like and just I'm just ashamed of the way that I know that I've spoke to you in the past. I'm just like, man, like I just want to do such a better job of just admiring you and complimenting you. And for me, that goes a long way too. I think that comes out in like if you admire the person, you're far less likely to like insult or come down on them or say things you're going to regret.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that brings me to like I think this is a really good place to close it too is that last week we had a business meeting and one of the things I brought up you didn't it started right away. You like kind of went down the old school path that we would go to where like you didn't like how I said it. And instead of like letting me walk down that path, I decided that I was going to like kind of reframe it and come back to you. And then like we were able to finish.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, what did you
And
do
then,
exactly? Because you're right, that it ended fine.
And then I thought about it. One of the things I shifted is that like here we are going down this path of an argument for something we should be celebrating. And because we were talking about like like payroll, adding payroll, like our self-step payroll for our other company and that sort of thing, like something that like we work towards. And after the meeting, I sat there and I wrote down, I was like, I'm so grateful that this is something we had to discuss because it's something that's growing in the right direction. Like we were talking about managing like the money of the short-term rental and like the tax loop, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I thought about and I realized that also was stimulated again from listening to this other podcast was about how like I don't know if this is most men. I think that you're going to agree and say yes, but like also men need to be told like you're proud of them.
Yeah.
And that was what Garrett was asking for in writing from Danielle. He was just saying, like, I want you to put it in writing,
Well,
even
Garrett-
though she was verbally saying it, even on the podcast, but he just couldn't receive it. He was saying, I need it to be something I can read and go back to. And part of it was because he was saying he saves all his messages that he really loves from her. And when he's struggling or like at war, and he wants to remember that he gets to go home to this queen that really appreciates and loves him. And that's how he feels appreciated, is knowing she's proud of him. And it's so easy, I think, for us to look at our men as like, or our men to start thinking like, I'm an ATM, right? Like all I do is produce. The pressure of production, he called it. And so what I decided is I was going to send you a text. And I was doing this anyways, where I shared with you that I was really proud that we actually worked through that meeting. It didn't go down the path that it typically would go, and that we were even able to have that conversation was a result of how much work you've put into Weaponized. And that it's growing and it's doing really well, and to the point where because I came from that place of gratitude, I'm like, even like I said, we talked about this the other day, like I'm even willing to step back in and help you grow it now, because now we can work on a little bit different level because we have a different communication strategy that we didn't have before. So I think that is like something that's really important, is like figuring out with your significant other, like if the woman wants, if the number one thing she wants is to feel appreciated, to feel loved, and she might not know at the beginning, just like I didn't know.
Might not know.
How can I show that to you? What does that mean? And then for the male, I think same thing is like asking that person is like, hey, what makes me show you that I'm proud of you? Like you like me to verbally say it to you. Like, hey, I'm proud of you. You want me to recognize it. Like you need that validation in a verbal way. And or written way. And because I certainly feel proud of you all the time, but I don't necessarily say it. Right. So that's what I'm saying is like now I'm making more effort to be like, hey,
I noticed.
I am proud of you. And here's why. And I remember when you used to say this all the time, just like every time you would be like, just touch me more, just touch me more, just touch me more. I get so friggin' annoyed, right? Instead of just being like, okay, like maybe I could just give him what he wants and maybe it'll like improve. Right. So like just starting to ask that person is like, hey, what makes you feel respected if that's what's important to you, and then what makes you feel appreciated. And I think those are pretty universal, like that the male
let me ask you this. Now that you're at a place where you feel more appreciated, because I do make more effort to try to make you try to free your time up and try to make plans and prioritize you, right? And show you acts of service, right?
Yeah.
So when you know that I'm doing this and you feel more loved and connected, does it make it a lot easier for you to want to touch me and be intimate?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which you've seen proof of in the last couple weeks.
That's the fucking magic though. That's like, so it's weird because you're like, that bitch isn't giving me what I want. So why would I give her what I want? Like if you approach it with it, because that's kind of how we operated. Like, you're like, why would I want to touch? Because you just said it. Like, he wants me to touch him, Well, fuck that. I'm like, okay, well, I just touched him yesterday. But you don't
make me sound like
you don't feel,
I'm allergic to it.
But you don't feel like that if you feel like, oh my God, like I'm so proud of him and he did this for me and like I really want to make love to him or whatnot.
Yeah. And like even if
it makes me at the same time, like I want to prioritize you because I see it. You're so much happier, you're more connected, you're more feminine, you're more clear.
Yeah. And also too is like when you make me feel appreciated, then I don't bitch about things I have to do anymore because like I'm like, oh, he at least appreciates this. It's not like I'm doing this and he doesn't even freaking notice or he doesn't even care.
Right.
Or he just thinks that's my job, quote. You know what I mean? Like because I do it or I've done it since day one.
I think that's like, I think where I've always prayed that we would get to. And it's just, I mean, it's magical when you're able to get there. And some people are just there and they just naturally stay there.
Yeah. And I feel like we've just like scratched.
It was definitely not natural for us to get there.
Yeah.
It took 15 years.
Yeah. And it's still, like I said, we're scratching the surface.
Because it is not natural for me to like, oh, I'm going to like put everybody else first before myself. Right.
Yep.
And it's not natural for you to like put yourself first and then everybody else second. So, which can be like both of them a blessing and a curse, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, so I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Okay. Awesome. If you like this episode, please
just go into your automatic AI
review and subscribe.
Yeah. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. No, I'm just saying, just like,
unless you're saying that I have the intelligence of AI, which I don't. Nobody. It would be awesome if I did.
Nobody does. But we appreciate you guys listening. I hope you're getting great value out of these podcasts, and we'll see you guys next week.